I think our culture, our Christianity and our culture in the Western world are completely and they cannot be separated.
Mm.
Um, and I don't think a lot of Christians think that. I think they have this thing where they think, "Oh, we're operating in the kingdom of heaven. We're a separate entity," but we are so influenced by the capitalist culture, consumerism.
Mhm.
Obviously, racism is a huge part of like North American, at least. I don't know exactly what things are like in the UK.
It's still in there.
I could
It
say
looks
North
different,
American,
but yeah.
yeah, Canadian and the US. They're very, very similar in a lot of ways. We are slightly more progressive in those
Mhm.
terms. We have like a more liberal government, which I'm super thankful for. We have healthcare, super
Yeah.
great.
Bonus, especially
Um,
right now.
yeah, so there are definitely some better things, but there's also some really terrible things as
Mhm.
well that I still recognize. Anyway, the whole thing about like the church culture and this, trying to be this other entity, um, it's not reality in my opinion. It's like
Mm.
obviously, especially when you see when all the support for Donald Trump came out, and it's like, oh, these people. For me, it was like, especially seeing leaders who I
Mhm.
really admired, like be like, yes, he's the man, like he's
Yep.
God's man for our time. I'm like, for me, it was like, oh, okay, it's kind of eye opening. I was like, they're just people. These
Yeah.
leaders that I held in such high esteem, it's like they're just normal people, and they're doing the best with what they have,
Mhm.
and they are also susceptible to these types of things and like the culture, and especially in North American culture, that specifically the American ideal of like pull yourself up by your bootstraps. If you work really
Mhm.
hard, you can make it. Like that is not a reality. It is
Yeah.
not a real thing.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of looking down upon people who feel like they can't do that. You know,
Mm.
but it's just like it's unfortunate because I'm in the most privileged demographic in the world. I am
Mm.
a straight white man,
Yep.
and I've been working in my life to recognize how my privilege affects me and affects the world around me, and being like, it's not fair. Like, it's really not fair. And I really sometimes am like, I hate it, and I want to try to upend it and do what I can. I'm like, I don't know how to upend these things.
Mm.
But I think, anyway, get back to what I was saying about the culture, like the way when Paul talked about like powers and principalities and these things, he's not talking about demons. He's talking about these systems of corruption that exist in the world, and the way that the world is structured that benefit a few and
Mhm.
totally oppress the rest. And like
Yeah.
those things have always existed, and they exist to this day. And like
Absolutely.
when Jesus came, he came to upend the system. He came to show us what it looks like to live, um, and to upend the religious system, the political system,
Mm.
and say this is not the way the world should be structured.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we take a lot of his sayings and messages and life and be like, they create this other thing,
Mm.
which, I mean, I don't think Jesus was trying to start a religion. I really don't think that's what he was trying to do.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I agree.
but again, like the Christian church in the West does not see how much we are just like operating in a capitalistic way. You look at the churches, the way they're run, it's like a business,
Mhm.
and not that there's anything wrong with, I mean, I run a business, but it gets really tricky when you don't actually maybe look inward and see like what are some of these things that we're doing that maybe aren't so helpful.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the ways that we're operating, and it's just like when you just keep going and being like, okay, business as usual, let's just keep doing the things that we've always done.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, I think you have a good perspective, and I'm wanting to really have that perspective as well. And to be honest, I struggle with it. Like, if it works for people, that's great. Like, if it does work, if it's the thing that works for you, that's awesome. It just doesn't work for me anymore.